Yes, so in this lesson, I'm going to teach on speculations of exchange rate, okay? Now, one of the things I want you to know is that, you see, if somebody knows that next week the exchange rate is going to rise, let's say next week we will buy dollar at, let's say, 7 cedis, and the person knows that, what a person is going to do is that he's going to buy more dollars now, because now it's around 6 cedis, 9 pesos. And the person will keep it. Then when the price goes to 7 cedis, the person can now sell it. Then the person would have gained 92 pesos on it. All right. So if I know that the price of dollar is going to rise next week, I can buy more now and sell it next week when the price rises. Now, this means that individuals can make speculations, firms can make speculations, and even banks can also make speculations. Speculation is simply waiting or predicting exchange rates, okay, so that you can make a move and then gain. And that's the example I gave you, all right? Now, we can make speculations without using our own money, okay? We can make speculations without using our own money. So we can make speculations without using our own money. How can we do that? Now, how we can do that is that we can borrow money from somewhere or a certain country and go and invest the money in another country, so that when the investment matures, we withdraw it and come and pay back our loan, okay? So we can make speculations without using our own money. As I said, I can borrow money from Ghana, go and invest the money in US for the same period that I'm borrowing in Ghana. So if I'm borrowing the money for 1 month in Ghana, that means I'm going to invest the money in US for 1 month. So that when the investment matures, I would take that money and then come and pay back the loan I got from Ghana, all right? So this means that we can always embark on an arbitrage, or we can embark on speculations without using our own money, okay? So how do we do that? Now, if you are going to borrow money from somewhere and you are going to lend the money to another jurisdiction, okay, what you need to note is that you always have to borrow from the country where you expect that the currency will depreciate. Let me take it again. When you are going to borrow money and going to lend somewhere and come and pay back, it means that you are embarking on an arbitrage without using your own money. And what I'm saying is that when that happens, we are going to borrow the money from the country where we expect that the currency will depreciate, and go and lend the money to a country where we expect that the currency will appreciate. Okay, why do we do that? We do that because, just look at this scenario. If I expect the cedi to depreciate, maybe in 1 month time, I'll borrow cedis now, change it to dollars, and go and invest in US. Because in 1 month time, if the cedi depreciates and I'm changing the money back to cedis, apart from even gaining on the interest rate of my investment, I'll gain so much money. Because if in 1 month's time the cedi depreciates and my investment in US matures, what it means is that if I am going to bring the money back to Ghana, and when I change small dollars, I'll get plenty cedis, okay, so that I can even come and pay back my loan and even get more money in excess. So you must note this, that for every question like this, always borrow from where, or the country that you expect that the exchange rate will depreciate, and go and invest in where the country that you think the exchange rate is going to appreciate. Now, the question says that Elevate Bank expects the exchange rate of the New Zealand dollar to appreciate from its present value of 0.50 US dollars to 0.52 US dollars in 30 days. The question we must therefore ask ourselves, therefore, is that which currency is appreciating and which currency is depreciating? Now, I want us to make an assumption concerning this question. In this question, let's assume that we are in the US, okay? So let's assume that the home country is US, or we are spending the dollar. If that is the case, or if that is so, okay, if we will need more dollars in 30 days to buy 1 New Zealand dollar than now, it means that our dollar will depreciate. So it means that now we will need $0.50 to buy 1 New Zealand dollar. Okay. Then in 30 days, we will need 0.52 US dollars to buy 1 New Zealand dollar. That means that in 30 days, we will need more US dollars to buy 1 New Zealand dollar than now. That means that in 30 days, the US dollar is going to depreciate against the New Zealand dollar, or the New Zealand dollar is going to appreciate against the US dollar. So here, because the US dollar will depreciate and the New Zealand dollar will appreciate, okay? The trick beyond this question is that, sorry, the trick behind this question is that you then borrow from US dollar and go and invest in New Zealand dollar. Once you miss this, all your subsequent computations will be wrong. So we can clearly see that the New Zealand dollar will appreciate and then the US dollar will depreciate. So it means that we will borrow from where the currency will depreciate, that is the US dollar, and go and invest in where the currency will appreciate, that is the New Zealand dollar. So essentially, we borrow money from US and go and invest in New Zealand. That is all. Another thing you must be careful about is this short-term interest rate here. Remember that the arbitrage is occurring in 30 days. Okay. So it means that the borrowing and lending the money should occur within 30 days, because the appreciation and depreciation is occurring within 30 days. So if you want to take advantage of that, our borrowing and lending must also occur within 30 days. Now, in the question, you must be careful because sometimes the borrowing and lending rates are given in 30 days. That one you will not convert, okay? When the borrowing and lending are given in 30 days, that one there is no conversion. But when the lending rate and borrowing rate are in annualized, then you have to convert to 30 days, right? So here we assume a 365-day year, okay, to convert this annual rate into 30 days. I said in the question, sometimes pay attention, sometimes the rates are not annual. They are already in 30 days, that one we will not convert. But some questions, they are annualized. So it means that this rate, you have to convert them to 30 days. So the first step is that, number one, we borrow, the question says we can borrow $20 million. So number one, we will borrow 20 million US dollars at a rate of, now, if we check from the question, we can see that the borrowing rate in US is 7.2, because this is US and this is New Zealand. So the borrowing rate in the US is 7.2. Okay, but this is for the year. So we are going to convert this annual rate to a 30-day rate. All right, we are going to convert it to a 30-day rate. Okay, we are going to convert it to a 30-day rate. How can we convert it to a 30-day rate? It's very simple. How we can convert this to a 30-day rate is that the 7.2% is 0.072 times 30 over 365. As I said, we are assuming a 365-day year. So that nobody will say, I want to use 360 days. Someone will say, I want to use 366 and all that. So If you want to convert this rate to 30 days, it is the rate times 30 over 365. Now, if you convert this to a 30-day rate, you are going to get 0.00592. All right. You are going to get 0.0059. So let's keep it at 4 decimal places, 0.0059. Okay, 0.0059. So it means that our total owing at the end of 30 days will be 20 million plus 20 million times the 0.0059. So at the end of the 30 days, we owe this amount, the 20 million plus the interest rate on the 20 million. So if you understand time value of money carefully, you don't need to do all these plain calculations. You could just say 20 million, okay? I'm now expanding the million, okay? So 20 million into brackets, 1 plus, because if you factorize this 20 million out, you have 1 plus the 0.0059. So 1 plus that is 1.0059. It's like saying future value, present value, 1 plus R, okay? Then the N, because this is not even more than a year, so the N will be 1. All right, it's like saying it. But if you don't get it that way, just do the manual computation. Find 0.059 off 20 million and add back. But this is a simple way to do it. All right, 20 million into bracket 1 plus the 0.0059. So when you do this, you now owe 20,118,000. Okay, this is what you owe at the end of the 30 days. 20,118,000. Now, the question we must ask ourselves, therefore, is we have borrowed this, okay? Number 2, we borrowed 20 million. Number 2, we are going to lend this 20 million to New Zealand, or we are going to invest it in New Zealand because we borrowed the money from US, all right? Now, the question says that just a moment. Yeah. Now, the question says that the present level, let's watch it. The present level of the exchange rate is $0.50 to New Zealand dollar. Currently, the exchange rate is this. Currently, it is this, okay? Currently, it is this. So, if we have borrowed $20 million, all right? If you have borrowed $20 million, and we are going to lend or invest the $20 million in New Zealand, okay, we have to convert it to New Zealand dollars at a rate of 0.50 US dollars. That's the current rate, okay? The current rate per the question is 0.50 US dollars, okay? Now, forget about the total owing. I did it because we will need it at the end. So all I want you to follow is, number 1, we have borrowed this. Forget about the total owing that we computed because it will be used later. So number one, we are borrowed 20 million from US. Number two, we are going to lend the 20 million or invest it in New Zealand. So before we can do that, we have to convert the 20 million US dollars to New Zealand dollars. At what rate? The rate has been given in the question as 0.50 US dollars. Now the question we must ask ourselves is that I have $20 million. I have $20 million, okay? The rate is 0.50 US dollars is to 1 New Zealand dollar. How do I convert this? We will have to divide. We can't multiply because listen, we have $20 million. The rate is 0.5 US dollars is to 1 New Zealand dollar. Assuming this money was in New Zealand dollars, we will just multiply. Okay, because we have 0.50 US dollars is to 1 New Zealand dollar. So how many New Zealand dollars can we get? How many US dollars can we get from New Zealand dollar? That one we would have multiplied. But because we are holding 20 million US dollars and the rate is 0.50 US dollars is to 1 New Zealand dollar, it means that if more, let's divide. All right? Because if 0.50 US dollars is 1 New Zealand dollar and we are having 20 million US dollars, it means you get more New Zealand dollars from it. Because every half US dollar is equal to 1 New Zealand dollar. So if I have 20 million US dollars, it means I'll get like 14 million New Zealand dollar from it. So that's why I say you divide. All right. So when you convert it, it will be 20 million US dollars divided by 0.5 US dollars per New Zealand dollar. So when you do this, you are going to get 40 million New Zealand dollars, okay? So the second step was that we are going to invest 20 million US dollars, but we have to convert it. So we have done the conversion, all right? So we are now holding 40 million New Zealand dollars in our hands, and we are ready to invest it in New Zealand because we have 40 million New Zealand dollars. Now, at what rate? So number three, we have to invest the 40 million New Zealand dollars at a certain rate. So we have to go and look at the question. And in the question, the lending rate in New Zealand is 6.48 here. The lending rate in New Zealand is 6.48. All right, so, but of course, we are doing everything in 30 days. So we have to convert it to at a rate of 0.0648, that's in decimal, times 30 over 365 days. So I'm going to also convert this into 30 days. So if you convert 0.0648 to 30 days, that would be 0.0053, all right? So you get 0.0053. So it means that the total amount earned after your investment will be the 40 million into bracket 1 plus the 0.0053. If you don't understand this, as I said, just find 0.0053 of 40 million and add back, okay? But what I've written is a shortcut. So when you do this, 40 million times 1.0053, we are going to get 40,212,000 New Zealand dollars. Now, at the end of the day, you have to bring this money back to US and come and pay back your loan. Remember that. In 30 days, you have to bring back this money to US to come and pay back your loan. But you can't bring New Zealand dollars to US. You have to convert it to US dollars. so that you can repay your loan, right? We have to convert this New Zealand dollars to US dollars before we can repay our loan. So the fourth step is that we convert the 40,212,000 New Zealand dollars to US dollars to repay our loan. Now remember that the question said in 30 days, the rate will be 0.52 US dollars in 30 days. The rate will be 0.52 US dollars in 30 days. All right. So at a rate of 0.52 US dollars is to 1 New Zealand dollar. Now we have 40,212,000 New Zealand dollars. And then the rate is 0.52 US dollars is to 1 New Zealand dollar. Okay. So if less, more divide. All right. Or the other way we can look at this simply is that we just have to multiply. Therefore, because we just have to multiply the 40,212 by 1 and by 0.52, because every 1 New Zealand dollar is $0.52 US dollars. So how much US dollars can we get from 40,212 New Zealand dollars? You just multiply. Okay. So that would be 40,212,000 times 0.52 per US dollars per New Zealand dollar. So when you multiply, you are going to get 20,910,240 US dollars. Okay. So this is the total amount you've gotten from your investment. But remember that in 30 days, we also owe this. That's why we computed. We also owe this. Okay. In 30 days, we've earned this figure. But in 30 days, we also owe this in US. So what is your total profit? So your profit from this speculations will be 20 million that you've earned, 20,910,240 that you've earned from your investment minus the owing of 20,118. So this will be the total amount you would have earned. That would be $79,240. So this will be your profit. Okay, this will be your profit. Now, this approach or these calculations are not difficult, but you need more practice. And the key thing is, if you miss it from the beginning, where I said that you have to borrow from where the currency will depreciate and go and lend to where the currency will appreciate. If you miss it from the beginning, all your computations will be wrong, and you might even get a loss. Sometimes you might even get a loss. So that is the speculations. All right. That is the speculations. Now, here, the question now takes another twist and says, if the exchange rate rather falls from 0.50 to 0.48, what will be your answer? So in this one, you have to now borrow from New Zealand and come and invest in US. Because in that scenario, the US dollar will appreciate, the New Zealand dollar will depreciate. So we have to borrow from New Zealand and come and invest in US and do the computations again. All right. So you do the computations all over, like you do it again, but from the other way around, and then you find the profit. Okay, you find the profit. So you can just try your hands on it, and then you see what you get. Now, the next concept I'm teaching is carry trade. What is carry trade? Now, carry trade, this term is derived from the phrase cost of carry, which is to represent the cost of holding a particular position in an asset. Okay. So, for instance, if I hold a position like borrowing currency or investing in a certain currency, okay, and I'll make gains from it, like what we just did, like the example we just did, it means that I am embarking on a carry trade, okay, a carry trade. So it is just the term used to describe a position that you hold in a currency so that you can gain. So somebody can borrow and go and lend, hold both the position of borrowing and the position of lending, that the person can gain. Okay, so that's the meaning of carry trade, like what we just did, or just as an example of carry trade. So you can try your hands on this example. You can try your hands on this example. Now, the next concept I'm explaining is the exchange rate systems. Exchange rate systems. Now, you see, when we began these lessons, what we realized was that currently, exchange rate is determined by demand and supply of the currency. But then it has gone through a couple of systems. Okay, it has gone through a couple of systems. Now, it started from the fixed exchange rate system. It came to the freely floating exchange rate system. Then we now had the managed floating exchange rate system. Then we now have the pegged exchange rate system. So these are the exchange rate regimes that has evolved over the years. Now, with the fixed exchange rate systems, what this meant was that governments will meet, okay? Governments will meet. So in the olden days, several governments will meet, all right? Some of the agreements were called Bretton Woods agreements, Smithsonian and all that. They named those agreements. Now, what it meant was that several governments will meet and then they will decide what will be the exchange rate between their currencies. So Ghana government and US government will meet and they will decide that $1 should be maybe 5 cedis, and that was it. So here, what it meant was that various governments have to take responsibility to ensure that that exchange rate is between the two countries, okay, between the two countries. Now, because of the invincible hand of demand and supply, this system will definitely fail. Because if you agree that it should be $1 is to 5 cedis, okay, and people are demanding more of dollars, the people who are supplying them the dollars will charge high price because of demand and supply. So this system was a total failure. It couldn't last over time, all right? Because even though the official rate is 1:5, people were doing black markets to get the currency when they were in short. So this fixed exchange rate system that the government met to fix the exchange rate, it didn't last because between two countries, the economic conditions that will lead to the changes in demand and supply of currency can change. So when you make the exchange rate fixed, this system will definitely not last. Now, that brought about the freely floating exchange rate system where the market forces of demand and supply was entirely left to determine the exchange rate. So here, there was no government intervention. The market or the demand and supply for exchange rate will determine, the demand and supply for currency will determine the exchange rate. So here, there was no government intervention. Of course, we also know that anytime we leave everything to the market to determine, those who have more money are the people who are going to gain. Okay, so then this system also led to inefficiencies because once people have more money to change, they are the people who will get it. What about those who have small money but they still want to change? It will be difficult for them to get a currency. So because of that, this system was also quite inefficient. All right. So then the system that came was that let's have a bit of controlled or fixed exchange rate system and let's have a bit of the freely floating. okay? And that brought about what we call the managed floating system, or some books will call it the dirty floating exchange rate system. So here, demand and supply was allowed to determine exchange rates, but from time to time, government will intervene when the government thinks that the exchange rate is going beyond certain bounds. So the managed or the dirty floating system, there is a little bit of government intervention, okay? But then there is also demand and supply determining. So when the demand and supply determine beyond certain bounds, government will intervene. Then the final system is what we call the peg exchange rate system. This is where a particular currency, they peg the value of a particular currency to some other assets. They can peg it to gold, they can peg it to the value of gold, the value of bauxite, the value of diamond. They can even peg it to the value of another country's currency and say that if dollar increases by this percentage, CD2 will have to increase by this percentage. So here, the pegged exchange rate system is where a currency's value was pegged to a foreign currency or some unit of any asset. And thus it moves in line with that currency or that asset. Okay, that is the pegged. And of course, this was also the Odin system. All right, this is also another Odin system. Okay, so these are several exchange rate systems that have gone over the years. Some of these countries are practicing the floating, and back in those days, some of these countries down here are also practicing the peg, like Bahamas, Barbados, Bermuda, China, etc. They have pegged their currencies out of the US dollar. All right. Okay. So we all know issues of euro, that over the years, Europe as a continent, they have come together to spend one currency, all right? And those things also have implications for exchange rate movement. So you can just read on this, okay? You can just read on that. Now, what we've said so far is that, you see, with the dirty floating system, the exchange rate will allow to freely move, but sometimes government will intervene when it's necessary. How can government intervene in exchange rate market? Government may do a direct intervention, or government may do an indirect intervention by influencing the factors that affect exchange rates. So government may directly intervene, or government may influence the factors that affect exchange rates. And that is more common, all right? That is more common. It is less likely that a government will say, now let's exchange 5 cedis to $1 in our country. That's a direct intervention. But what is more common is that government will do indirect intervention by influencing factors that influence exchange rates. The government can reduce money supply in the system. When money supply reduces, the demand for foreign currency will fall. And when the demand for foreign currency falls, the exchange rate is going to fall. Okay. So that is, the government can indirectly influence exchange rate by affecting the factors that determine exchange rates. Okay. All right. So as I said, direct intervention and indirect intervention, where government does it through the factors that affect exchange rate. And we've done the factors already. We've talked about interest rates. We've talked about income. We've talked about inflation and all those factors, all right? So that is the direct intervention and indirect intervention, okay? So that's the direct intervention and indirect intervention. So government can even, because inflation leads to depreciation of our currency, as we learned before, what government can do is that government can reduce inflation. Once government reduces inflation, the exchange rate can stabilize. How can government reduce inflation? Government can reduce inflation by reducing its spending and increasing taxes, all right? So all that we are saying is that any policy that affects inflation, it affects interest rates, it affects income, okay? these policies can also affect exchange rate because these things here, they are factors that affect exchange rate. So one government is able to influence these factors, government is also able to influence the exchange rate movement, right? Once the government influences these factors, he can influence exchange rate movement. Okay. Yes. So that is that. So let's end this discussion by the law of one price. Okay. Let's end this discussion with the law of one price. Now, the law of one price says that the price of a holding all other factors constant. Holding all other factors constant, the price of a commodity in several countries must be the same if measured in a common currency. So here, holding all other factors constant, the price of a commodity, so the price of a commodity in several countries must be the same if we measure it in a common currency. What are we saying? What we are saying is that if $1 is equal to 6 cedis, okay? If a pen costs $2 in US, that pen must be able to cost 12 cedis in Ghana. Okay. So if the exchange rate between US dollar and Ghana cedi is 6 cedis is to $1, it means that if a pen costs $2 in US, it must cost 12 cedis in Ghana. All right. That is the law of one price. So one price says that at any given point in time, an identical good should cost the same if we measure it in a common currency. All right. So if we measure this $2 in cedis, it will be 12 cedis. So what we are saying is that if the rate is $1 is to 6 cedis, if something costs $2 in US, it must cost 12 cedis in Ghana. If it costs $3 in US, it must cost 18 cedis in Ghana. That is if the law of one price exists. All right. That's if the law of one price exists. Okay. So this is where we will end. The issue of purchasing power parity is based on the law of one price. Okay. The issue of purchasing power parity is based on one price. When we say there's purchasing power parity, what it means is that, you see, if you buy something in the US and if you buy something in Ghana, with the current exchange rate, the prices must be the same. All right. But of course, this meeting or this discussion is just introduction into international finance. I would not like to worry you with the various forms of purchasing power parity and all that. So just know that purchasing power parity says that, you see, when the price of something in Ghana is 6 cedis, it must be $1 in the US if the dollar to cedi rate is 1:6. All right. Now somebody will be wondering, what is the difference then between purchasing power parity and the law of one price? In principle, they are the same because purchasing power parity, it makes sure that when you buy something in US and come and sell in Ghana, you don't gain because of the price differences. So purchasing power parity exists to remove any gains you would have gotten as a result of price differences of goods, of identical goods between two countries. All right. So basically, purchasing power parity is a condition that exists to remove any benefit you get as a result of buying goods from a country where the price is cheaper and coming to sell in a country where the price is expensive. All right. So if the law of one price exists, it means that purchasing power will exist. Purchasing power parity will exist because by the time you buy something from US and come here and sell in Ghana, when you come and convert the currency, you realize that the price is the same, so you don't gain anything. All right. So basically, purchasing power parity is founded on the law of one price. So we have the absolute purchasing power parity, where we assume that we hold all other factors constant, like transportation costs, import taxes, and all those things. We hold all those things constant. Then we also have relative purchasing power parity, where we are saying that there will still be purchasing power parity even if we include transportation costs, import duties, etc., etc. Right? So as I said, this is just an introductory class to international finance. So I think this is enough at this level. All right.